When I started my journalistic career back in 1990, I was extremely young and just fresh out of university. In fact, I didn't finish my university. I was at the Karachi University doing MA in political science. So when I started my journalistic career, so between 1991 till about 1998, I used to cover a lot of cultural stuff, especially modern music in Pakistan's context. And I used to write these huge articles uh, sort of asking the musicians to stay away from corporate sponsorship. Basically, they were anti-capitalist tirades. They read more like manifestos than articles. But I got good feedback. But one day, going through all those articles, I realized they're nothing but huge conspiracy theories. And I looked into that, and once I started sort of studying what I'm writing and what I'm trying to propagate, I started realizing that whatever us Pakistanis have been taught at school in the name of history and taught by the Maulvis what Islam is or Islamic history, most of that have been half lies, and that was startling. So I sort of studied more about it. There's so much layers of half-truths which the truth has been buried. So it's not impossible to sort of go and find that out. One just has to do a bit more study and go beyond their history school books and go beyond what a preacher tells them on television or otherwise. I remember at college, this back in 1986-87. During Zia's time, Islamiyat was made compulsory. So some of us were talking against Zia's blasphemy laws and Hudud ordinances, and the teacher said that what you are saying is in the Quran, so it can't be wrong, and you are wrong. I said no. For example, there was some incident where it was stoned to death, and I said that this shouldn't happen in a modern society. He said no, but it's in the Quran. And I realized that it wasn't in the Quran, that the stoning of a woman or a man for adultery is not in the Quran. It is taken from a hadith. But it's amazing that so many such laws, things are out there, which people take as the truth. It may be religion, it may be history, it may be politics. Okay, in the last 2 years, I've noticed that, especially when Pakistan has been going through all sorts of political and social turmoil, there's been sort of drastic increase in proliferation of conspiracy theories. When someone used to come out with a conspiracy theory, at once there was a counter theory. But this hasn't been happening very often recently, and that is a very dangerous trend, because we see a lot of people coming on mainstream television and sitting there for hours talking about theories which can be very easily be refuted and debunked, but nobody's really doing it. Nobody is giving a counter theory the time and the effort and the platform which it requires. So what you're having is that you're getting a lot of young people who are looking for answers, who are not satisfied of the answers which, let's say, the history books at school have given them. They're getting fascinating, fantastic answers from these conspiracy theorists, from these mainstream platforms. But unfortunately, very few have actually given the time to people who can very easily refute these theories. Like, it's as easy as, for example, if someone says something about a Jew lobby or some other aspect of politics or what's happening in Pakistan, one can just sit in front of Google and Google it and find out what he heard on television was quite like far-fetched. It's not true. Let's go back in history. Conspiracy theories are sometimes treated as harmless fun, which is fine. You know, one can take a conspiracy theory and turn it into a fantastic science fiction film as well, where we can show that all human civilization was actually constructed by aliens which visited us. It'll make great science fiction. I'm a science fiction fan. But once that sort of fiction starts becoming or starts being portrayed as truth, and that too on mainstream media like television, radio, and other literature, that we should be concerned, because there will be older people, of course, who've seen this and they won't be taking it seriously. But we should be more concerned on how a lot of young people who've been disturbed with the way things have gone in this country in the last few years, they are highly impressionable and vulnerable to this sort of thinking. And these theories actually end up breeding a lot of hatred in these young minds, which is not good. And it's also not good at all, because most of these conspiracy theories are also aimed against the whole institution of democracy as well. I'll give you an example. For example, take democracy for instance. The overall message one gets from conspiracy theorists who, and so-called experts who sit on television and talk about it, the overall message one gets is that democracy doesn't work in a Muslim country. Things like democracy or socialism or even capitalism, all of these are a product of some Zionist conspiracy or the Christian right, whatever, and it's not for Muslims. So when you talk about democracy, which is definitely the only thing left in Pakistan which can save this country, and hopefully it will, but if the conspiracy theorist sits down and starts saying all these systems which are related to democracy, it may be capitalism, it can be socialism, and it can be, of course, democracy itself, and the sort of religious tolerance it sort of advocates. If a young person is told that this is a product of some very vicious Zionists and Americans, so they all bundle these things as one big conspiracy against the Muslim nation, then what can you expect? How can you go to a young man or a young woman and say, okay, listen, go out and vote, that this is going to save your country from all these martial laws, from all these reactionaries out there, from terrorism. Democracy is the answer. And he turns around and says, no, democracy isn't, because democracy is a product of the Jews or the Zionists or the Hindus, whoever. So that's why it's very important to come out, that intelligent people should come out and refute these theories on the mainstream. You know, and one cannot just, there are some very funny sounding conspiracy theorists coming on television. I mean, I laugh because their whole theory is like fantastic spy novel. But then you realize a lot of people are looking at that, you know, and a lot of people want to believe that, because a lot of people are looking for easy answers. But there are no easy answers. We are in a very complex situation. But one should also realize, it is the irony that the more the complex situation, the more common sense one should use. You know, you cannot understand a complex situation through shortcut answers. You will have to sort of have patience and use a lot of common sense, and that should come out, I think, in the mainstream media more. Every time there's a major bombing anywhere in the world and where Islamists are involved, you get, it can be 9/11, it can be 7/7, it can be the Marriott bombing in Islamabad, etc., etc. At once, the cyberspace is filled with all sorts of theories. That this Pentagon did it. Listen, the thing is, I personally, like for example, as a student, I was one of the most anti-American people there can be. But the thing is, there was a method to that madness. But at the moment, I don't see a method. I just see madness on both sides. It can be the Islamists and those people who are apologizing for them by coming up with these conspiracy theories. The problem is pretty simple. Both the West and ourselves, we have created monsters. And it's very apparent. We have to look at ourselves. But what we do is, the moment this sort of thing happens, we start pointing fingers at America, at Israel, at India. I'm not saying they're saints, but the thing is, it's very easy doing that. But nobody turns around and starts saying, okay, listen, look at it yourself. What we've been doing in the last 65 or 60 years, you know, we have to look at ourselves. It's very easy sitting on the net and saying, okay, actually, this is what happened. There's never been any proof. You know, there was a film called Loose Change, which became a huge hit in the Muslim world. A very mainstream Urdu channel actually also ran it as an Urdu translation. But very few people know that there has so far been 5 versions of the film. First film came saying that Pentagon was involved in 9/11. Then they couldn't prove that. They made another sequel saying, okay, we were wrong, but this is true. In the end, they made, I think, 2 more sequels suggesting that they couldn't prove anything. How come these films were never shown, where they say, okay, we couldn't prove anything? So it's very easy. You know, as an entertainment thing, fine. But one should understand that sometimes entertainment can also be quite harmful.
The more you believe in conspiracies, the lesser you believe in facts, giving the perception that the Western media is giving the facts and anybody exposing their lies and deceptions is a conspiracy theorist.